I like Crystron's a lot, and you probably already know that. I also like playing it in Master Duel, but I feel like there is way too few people in Master Duel who actually care about Crystrons, so it's pretty hard to find a good Crystron decklist to make. I've been experimenting with a ton of different builds. I've tried Scrap Recycler combos, I tried Jetix Undine, I tried Curious Lightsworn combos, I've tried Punk, and even like Two Elements, but I've settled with this build that also plays the Adventure Engine and the good Danger monsters. The glue that ties everything together in this deck is exactly this card. Historically, even when Hulk is unbanned, the biggest problem of Crystrons is that it loses to a single hand trap. An Ash on your Scrap Recycler often just ends your turn completely. Sherbini sends a level 3 monster as a cost, so not only can your opponent not negate that effect, you also have the option to either access your Crystron engine by milling your Fistburn, or you can access your Adventure engine by milling your Water Enchantress. Your Adventure engine not only gives you a negate before you start committing Crystron monsters, they also give you free stuff for your Crystron non-tuners to pop, because every Crystron non-tuner has an effect to destroy a face-up card to special summon a Crystron tuner from the deck. Your Fateful, Adventure, and your Draco Bag are just perfect targets for your Crystrons to pop. The dangers also synergize really well in this deck, because they're not only consistency tools to discard your Crystrons for their graveyard effects, they also are free monsters for both Synchro Summoning, and most importantly, level 3 monsters for Cherubini. This also lets you make Cherubini without even the normal summoning, which really helps you play around hand traps. Since we don't have Hulk anymore, the best card we have for Link 2 is probably Sprite Elf. It can't summon a tuner from deck, but it could summon Sentry from a graveyard, and it can activate its effect during both players' turn. So what you can do is you can revive your Sentry during your turn, and then synchro summon something like a Crystron Quandax, and then during your opponent's turn, you will summon back your Sentry from the graveyard again, and you actually use its quick effect to synchro summon using a monster from your graveyard. So that's a really good little combo you can do, and you'll do this almost every game. It also protects your monsters from being targeted, which is especially good in this deck, to protect your tuners from something like an imperm in the draw phase, because your tuners only activate their effects during your opponent's main or battle phase. I won't go over what each card does in detail because this deck is really complicated and there is a lot of things you can do with this deck. The best way to figure out what this deck can do is just to play this deck a lot of times. So yeah, I'll only go over the cards briefly, and I'll mention the card names of each card. First off is of course Maxi. It's just the best card in the game. We're playing 2 Sentry and 2 2 Ryan as the tuners of the deck. We're playing 2 of each because even if we accidentally discard one of them using dangers, because the discards are random, you still have a second one in your deck for you to summon. Next is one Turtle, 3 Smiger, 3 Fistburn. We're playing 3 of each because they're level 3. We're playing 3 Ash Blossom. It is both a negate in the hand and also a level 3 monster. And also it's a tuner, so potentially you can make a Baron using Ash plus a Nessie. And then we have 2 of the level 3 dangers. We're playing the Adventure Engine, 1 Rose Snakes, triple Sulfafnir, 3 Nessie, the rest of the Adventure Engine, Draco Bag, Faithful Adventure, Foolish. Foolish is just really good in this deck. You can mill both Enchantress or Fistburn, depending on what you draw in your hand. And then we're playing 1 Entry. Entry is actually really good in this deck. People often think that Impact is worth playing a lot more than Entry, so people don't even play Entry in their deck. I think Entry is a really, really good card. It special summons 2 tuners, 1 from hand and 1 from graveyard. So that oftentimes gives you access to 2/3 of your synchro monsters in your extra deck during your opponent's turn, because the combination of Sentry plus a Ryan gives you basically 2 synchro monsters from your extra deck, And if you summon something like a Quandax, you can even synchro summon again using the 2 synchro monsters, and the possibilities are just endless. And realistically, you oftentimes just make 2 Dawn Draxler because that's the best machine synchro monster we have probably. And it's also only requires 1 tuner and 1 non-tuner monsters, so you don't really need more than 2 monsters to summon this card, so you can just summon them off of Round and Citrus effect, and also the effect is not hard once per turn, so if you have 2 copies of this card in your field, you can negate 2 spell trap cards. So yeah, the extra deck we're playing 1 Quandax, 1 Axel Synchron. These 2 are the synchro tuners that allow us to synchro summon during our opponent's turn. We're playing 1 Super Heavy Samurai Sword Master Musashi. I think this card is a bit better than Crystron Metrics because it also gets you a free Crystron from your graveyard back to your hand for you to discard during your next turn. We're also playing 1 Powder Insectron. This card is really good not only to protect life points, and also it cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects the turn it's summoned. It's also level 6, which is pretty useful because this card plus your Quandax will be able to make a Satellite Warrior, and this card is really good. Anyway, we have 2 Dawn Dragsters, 1 Crystal Wing, 1 Phoenix, 1 Korin Gandrax, 1 Navy Dragon Mech. This card is really good if you have Nessie in your opening hand, because you could summon the Navy using Citri plus a Nessie in your graveyard, and this card alone is just a bunch of negates if you have multiple tuners in your graveyard. So if you synchro summon this card during your opponent's turn, and your opponent has a bunch of cards on field, you can potentially negate multiple cards your opponent controls, and just stop whatever they're doing. And also it has a really good effect that when it's destroyed by card effect, you could recycle a tuner from your graveyard, and this includes your own effects, so you could pop this card using your own Crystrons, and it will trigger the graveyard effect. For level 10s, we have Satellite Warrior. This is just a really good card to summon during your opponent's turn, because when this card is synchro summoned, you can destroy a card your opponent controls up to the number of synchro monsters in your graveyard. And if you're summoning it using a Quandax and Insectron, you're popping at least 2 cards your opponent controls, and also this card gains 1,000 attack for each card destroyed, so this card can increase its attack by quite a lot. It's like access code, but you can summon it during your opponent's turn. And we're playing 1 Baron, of course, this card's just really good. And we're playing 1 Trishula. This card does not target, so it's really good against certain boards, and also it banishes, so it gets around destruction protection. And lastly, for our 2 Link monsters, we're playing 1 Cherubini as just a glue of the entire deck, and Sprite Elf. And Sprite Elf is, as I said, really good for both extending your combos and protecting your monsters from being targeted. Okay, so let's have a look at the replays. Okay, so we are in the replays. These replays are taken in Platinum, so they're not too low, so our opponents are actually playing decent decks. And also the Labyrinth cards just came out, so there's going to be a lot of that. But yeah, our opponent is going to lead with a back C, so even if we're going first, we can't really do a lot. We don't want them to draw a whole bunch of cards, so we're just gonna summon 1 Citri and end turn. And thankfully, we whiffed the Danger Nessie, so it doesn't summon itself, because that also gives our opponent an extra draw, and that's not very ideal. We're just gonna hope that our opponent isn't going to just win on turn 2. And thankfully they're not, they're playing Labyrinth, so they're just gonna set a bunch of cards and pass. So during our turn, we're gonna activate Smarger to get a spell trap, but he is going to activate a trap to negate that. That's good news, because that means he doesn't have a Gravedigger for Sulfafnir, and that's the card that we actually want to resolve. We're gonna activate Jackalope, and we hit it again. That is not ideal, but at least we get 2 level 3 monsters to make our Cherubini. The Cherubini is going to mill Water Enchantress. Water Enchantress will activate her effect to give us access to the entire Adventure Engine. We're going to activate Rite of Armistice. This card is not only good as part of the Adventure Engine, it's also good just as a free token for you to synchro summon. but in this situation we're going to just use it as a monster on field to enable our negate. He is going to activate his Labyrinth card effects and do a whole bunch of Labyrinth stuff, but most importantly we're just gonna bounce that specific backrow because that backrow can be activated that turn and the Welcome Labyrinth cannot, so we're gonna bounce that first, and then we're gonna finally discard our Sophothmir to summon the Griffin Rider, and then Sophothmir will activate its effect in the graveyard to summon itself, and we are going to make Sprite Elf. Sprite Elf will activate its effect to summon back the turtle activates its effect, and now we are machine locked. When we activate the effect of any Crystron non-shooters to summon a shooter from deck, this locks us into machine-type synchro monsters. So we cannot make our links after we use that effect, so that's why we need to use, we have to make Elf before we use the turtle's effect. He's going to Nibiru, that's fine, we have the Adventure Engine exactly for this reason. And we're going to pass him with 2 shooters on field. That is pretty good, even though it might not look like it. This actually gives us a lot of flexibility and interaction during their turn. And now that we know that they're playing a backrow deck, our goal is to make exactly Crystron Phoenix, because that card is really nuts against backrow decks. It banishes all backrow on both their field and their graveyard. So our entire aim is to make that card. Our opponent unfortunately has a Maxi, and it really sucks that they activated this effect during their own turn, because we are going to summon a whole bunch of monsters in their turn. So this will give them a whole bunch of draws, but we can at least activate Ryan before the Maxi resolves. So he gets 2 less draws, but we will still give him a lot of draws with the Sishri effect and the Quandax effect, which we'll activate later. We're gonna make the level 5 synchro, grabbing back the Smagger for next turn, and now we have 5+4, making the best card against the backrow in our extra deck. Crystron Phoenix will activate its effect, and this banishes all backrow in both his field and his graveyard. He has to activate Big Welcome Labyrinth now, otherwise it's all gonna be gone. That's just really satisfying. But since he has Maxi, he still has a couple of cards in his hand, and this means he can still set a couple of traps before he ends his turn. So he still has some backrow for us to contend with, but this should be fine. And at least we know that these 2 set backrow, one is Big Welcome and the other one is the normal Welcome. And because he attacked our Crystron Phoenix, we can summon back the Quandax, and Quandax is not once per turn at all. So we can Synchro Summon again, and this time we're gonna make Satellite Warrior pop 3 cards because we have 3 Synchro monsters in our graveyard, and we cannot target our opponent's Lady Labyrinth because it prevents itself from being targeted. During the draw phase, he is going to bounce back to Sprite Elf before we enter our main phase to prevent our quick effect. But we should be able to win this turn, even though we might not look like we have enough for lethal. We have a ton of graveyard effects for us to activate. We're going to use our Faithful Adventures effect to grab Enchantress that we shuffled back with Round, and then discard itself. And then Enchantress will grab us a Aramesir. We'll summon back the Sophothmir, pop itself, activate its effect, summon a Citri. We're gonna Turtle, banish itself to summon our Sophothmir from hand, Wrath of Aramesir, summon a level 4, 5+4+2, and that makes our big boy Trishula. Trishula has a non-targeting effect, so that will be able to banish our opponent's Lady Labyrinth, and Trish plus a 5500 Satellite Warrior, it will be enough for lethal. Okay, this is our next game, and we're going second. This is not very ideal, but we do have Maxi, and we have Ash, so I think we might be able to at least play the game. And they're not even gonna summon anything. They're just gonna set turn and pass. It's probably another Labyrinth player, I'm guessing. We're gonna, unfortunately, activate our Faithful Adventure directly from hand. As he is going to Ash our Faithful Adventure, that's fine. Because we have tons of ways to get into our combo. And also, Adventure, the Adventure stuff isn't our mainline combo anyway, so it's fine if that gets negated. At least we will be able to summon the Jackalope plus a Fist Firm. That's 2 level 3s, which makes Cherubini. And we're gonna activate the Graveyard effect of Fist Burn to grab Self-Ifnir, and now that we have Self-Ifnir, we could finally activate Faithful Adventure to discard Self-Ifnir. He is going to punishment before we summon the Griffin Rider, so we can't negate the punishment, but that's fine. He's going to pitch one of the branded fusion monsters. I don't remember that name. Okay, one thing you need to remember is don't summon Self-Ifnir in the zone that Cherubini points to, because Cherubini prevents your monsters from being destroyed by card effects, and that is mandatory, so that does prevent Self-Ifnir from destroying itself. But you don't want that, you want to destroy yourself, so be careful. Don't summon Self-Ifnir in a Cherubini zone. Anyway, we're gonna make Sprite Elf, make a Synchro, and we're gonna Smagger for a Crystron Impact, set Impact, and end turn. Our opponent is going to, during their main phase, activate a Coup Clock. We're gonna activate Sprite Elf as soon as possible to summon back the Citri to make a Synchro during their turn. We're gonna, since we know that they're playing Labyrinth, we're going to attempt to make Dawn Jackster to negate their back row, but they have the barrier. That's fine, we still are able to summon a monster from Graveyard even though we can't make a Synchro monster with that. They're going to use their entire hand to make a Welcome Labyrinth, and thankfully we have Ash in our hands. So, GG's. That's game. Okay, in our third game we're actually going first. And we have the Adventure Engine, but unfortunately we did open with a Griffin Rider. So we're gonna summon Griffin Rider as soon as possible. So if he has something, if he has a hand trap, we could negate it as soon as possible. And we're going to just do the adventure line, grabbing a copy of Water Enchantress, and we're discarding the equip. And the Water Enchantress is a level 3, and it also can special summon itself. So that means we could make our Cherubini. We're gonna make just that, activate its effect to mill a Fist Firm, and give us access to the Crystron cards in our deck. We don't actually have a card for Self-Ifnir to discard, so instead we're just gonna grab Turtle and just normal summon our Turtle. We'll do that, summon a Sprite Elf, protecting our Griffin Rider. We're gonna revive the Turtle effect to summon Citri, and now we're Machine Synchro locked. We're gonna grab a Armaseer for next turn, just as a free monster, I guess. We're gonna make Quandax in a Elf zone and pass turn. We have 1 negate, 1 Synchro summon, actually 2 Synchro summons because we have Elf, and we have Maxi and Ash in hand. He is going to, for some reason, in-perm during the main phase, which allows us to activate Elf's effect as a chain. And he activates Called By to banish the Citri, which I really don't want, so we're gonna negate that with the Griffin Rider. He's going to negate our Elf, that's fine. He's playing a Live Twins, and that means he's also probably playing the Sprite cards as well, so we're gonna try to Maxi. He will be activating his Crossout to negate our Maxi, but that should be okay. He's going to summon summon the Kizuko from hand. Maybe he just got really unlucky and draw both. He's going to Jet. We're going to Ash's Jet. He is going to make a copy of Gigantic Sprite. But that's fine. Gigantic Sprite doesn't activate on summon. It needs to start a new chain. So right after he summons his Xyz, we're going to make a level 5 Synchro. We're going to make Sword Master Musashi to grab back a card to our hand for next turn, and then we're going to activate Quandax effect to summon a copy of a Navy Dragon Neck. And this card, when summoned, can negate cards up to the number of tutors on our graveyard. So we will negate both his monsters. He will attempt to activate his Xyz, which won't do anything. He's gonna make Downward, but he can't make Zeus because his Xyz are in defense position, and he didn't attack with that, so he can't really make Zeus. So the best he can do is just make his evil twins, which I guess at least he gets a free draw. But I don't think that's gonna help him a lot, because he also doesn't have any other cards in his hand apart from that single draw. And he's going to end on a single Kill and a set card. That should be okay. We still have our Elf on field, which is really helpful, so we will activate that effect. We're actually going to revive the Cherubini because we still don't have access to Self-Ethmir. So we're going to summon the Cherubini, and the Cherubini will mill us the Fistburn, and the Fistburn will grab us the Self-Ethmir. He is going to Smashers, but that's fine. He's not banishing Cherubini for some reason. He's going to get rid of our Navy plus our Elf. That means we still have Cherubini on field to actually mill the Fistburn from our deck. We're gonna do that. He's going to summon back the Killer to draw a card. We will not let him draw because we have an Ash, so why not? We're gonna stop him from gaining more card advantage. We're gonna stop him from getting into a position of winning. So we're gonna add the Self-Ethmir to our hand. We're gonna use Faithful Adventure to discard the Self-Ethmir and add the Griffin Rider. We'll summon the Self-Ethmir, pop Self-Ethmir effect, summon the Rose Nyx, pop Faithful Adventure to summon the Ryan. We're gonna, on battle phase, attack both of his evil twins. And I forgot to summon Ryan, so I guess there's that. I forgot to attack with Ram. But anyway, we still have a Dawn Dragster for a Spell and Trap negate, and a Griffin Rider for just Anomaly negate. And with one card in his hand, he is going to scoop.